This man is the largest government contractor, the largest recipient of government money. He was the largest donor to Donald Trump's campaign. He is the owner of a communications platform, and he will have an office inside the White House.
Tim Miller joined Piers Morgan and a couple of other panelists to talk about the Elon Musk gesture, wave, sending his heart, salute. I mean, I've done other videos where I talk about how I feel on it. Piers Morgan videos tend to be pretty, inflammatory deliberately. That's what he's doing here. But I'm going to focus in this clip on the part where Tim Miller joins and weighs in with his perspective. I'm going to add, my opinion where that's germane, and then I want to know what you think in the comments. But let's check it out together.
Tim Miller's with us now. Tim, great to have you back on Uncensored. I watched this happen. I watched the immediate reaction. I thought, here we go. We're back into the Nazis. Is there no way of American political discourse, led by the Democrats, I have to say, is there no way of just moving past Nazis and Hitler? Can we not just all agree that it's a ridiculous and fatuous thing to keep playing out as a narrative and doesn't work? Hence Trump's big win, despite everyone on the left calling him a Nazi. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think, we'll start with one area of agreement, actually, that I have with you and Clay, which is different for me lately, which is I agree that it is, I don't think, a good strategy. The fact that you guys are talking about it shows that it's not a great strategy. If they were doing some very effective messaging, I kind of think that Clay would probably be ignoring it. So I agree. I think Elon's kind of a weird guy that was doing kind of an awkward gesture. I think we can all admit it was kind of awkward, but he does a lot of kind of awkward things. If I was the Democrats, here's what I'd be focused on when it comes to Elon Musk. This man is the largest government contractor, the largest recipient of government money. He was the largest donor to Donald Trump's campaign. He is the owner of a communications platform, and he will have an office inside the White House. I mean, there was mass outrage on the right about the fact that some people in the Biden administration were emailing Facebook and Twitter people recommending the content be taken down. I don't think that was very smart. I think that was bad policy by the Biden administration. But it was kind of mid-level bureaucratic stuff. I don't think it was really limiting people's free speech all that much. Now, I don't understand how you could be upset about that, but then be okay about the owner of a communications platform having an office in the White House, having a security clearance, and being able to put the thumb on the scale of his algorithm to promote what is happening out of this administration. We can all agree, if you just go on the Twitter or the X For You page, it's like Elon Musk Propaganda Central. So now we have an officer of the American government controlling a communications platform.
Not even an officer officially yet. Just Doge isn't a thing. They say it's going to be a thing, but then this is just the richest man in the history of people.
I would think that people who are concerned about speech and free and open dialogue in this country would be astonished by that. In addition to the potential corruption, if you're an Elon competitor, what must you be thinking right now if you're a competitor of SpaceX or competitor of Tesla, which receive billions of dollars for the government, and the owner of that company is now going to have control over a government efficiency program where he gets to choose where money goes? The corruption here is astonishing. It'd be like if George Soros had an office off of the West Wing when Joe Biden was president. It's insane. So if I was the Democrats, I'd be focused on that level of corruption and not his awkward hand gesture.
Well, it's very interesting what you've just said. And I'll bring Dave Smith in because I've got to say, it's good to hear someone on the left admit that this Nazi stuff is bullshit. I just think it is, and it's just stupid. And also, I just feel I'm not Jewish, but if I was, I would be so endlessly offended, deeply, mortally offended, that people keep trying to draw an equivalence between Donald Trump and the Republicans and the Nazis. I just think it's ridiculous.
What's not ridiculous? The focus is wrong, and I've said this in other videos, right? It's not the intent. It's not the intent of such an awkward gesture or Nazi salute. It's the impact, right? So if you take a rock and you throw it in a lake, it hits the water and creates ripples. And you can argue about someone's intent in throwing that rock. Oh, he had Nazi intent in throwing that rock. Or no, he's Asperger's and he's just awkward. And they're, well, that's not the point. The point is the ripples. There are people in this country that perceive that, air quotes, awkward gesture as a very clear signal. And that's the kind of the repercussions that can come from that signaling. Again, whether it's intentional or not, and I think it's very naive to say that there's no awareness. Oh, he was sending his heart, please. But quibbling over whether that litmus test defines someone as a Nazi is absurd, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Anyway, first, your thoughts on that. But secondly, interesting point I thought there from Tim, which is, yeah, you can. I didn't actually agree with your first part, Tim, about Facebook and stuff. I think they did have a pretty insidious impact on things like suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop story, the New York Post getting locked out of social media for the last 2 weeks of that last election, and so on. I think that was very wrong. However, I do think you make a very interesting comparative point. And Dave, I'm interested what your take is on this. First, Nazigate, but secondly, the point Tim makes about Elon Musk getting an office in the West Wing and comparing that to the influence perhaps that Facebook had last time round.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, there's some that I agree with, a lot I don't. So I would be in agreement that I think even if you want to make the argument somehow that like Elon Musk this was a dog whistle, he's a secret Nazi and he chose this as his moment to like subliminally come out as a Nazi, and that was the message somehow. The fact is, Piers, as you addressed at the top of the show, the Democrats have just gone to this well far too many times and nobody's listening anymore. So even if this was the real case, which I don't think it is, I think he's just a somewhat awkward kind of herky-jerky guy in these moments. But even if this was the case, I'm sorry, you just billed Donald Trump's rally as a Nazi rally because it was in Madison Square Garden. Yeah. And that was the only connection.
No, come on, dude. Come on. Like, even from these guys, you don't see the similarities. We've been using the word fascist. Somebody pointed out, I think it might have even been on Piers Morgan's channel. It's like, Donald Trump, no, I think it was Sam Cedar. Donald Trump doesn't really have an ideology. No, it was, well, never mind. Donald Trump doesn't really have an ideology in the way that Hitler had an ideology, right? So we're not saying that Elon Musk and Donald Trump, by using the term fascist, we're not saying they are trying to bring back the Third Reich and rebuild the Nazi party in America. We're not saying that. Right? What we're saying is the playbook is the same, right? Read the book Goebbels himself wrote about how they did it. There's a lie repeated 1,000 times becomes the truth, and eroding the checks and balances of a system, right? It's not the first time this has come around. Fascism is a particular term that rose out of that particular period of time, but the techniques and the methodologies are not new. They go all the way back to the Romans and probably before. I'm not a historian. To disregard this because the hysterical left is screaming about Nazis and fascism ignores the very real threat. And of course, people on the right at Fox News who are paid to do this are very actively doing that, I believe, knowing that they're trying to whitewash this because they're on board with it. They want a new monarchy, right? They don't want a democratic checks and balances. They really drank the Kool-Aid of authoritarianism and oligarchy. They think that somehow they're going to come out ahead in that they're part of the rich ruling class, and that's going to benefit them. But let's not pretend that this is all imaginary and in our minds. Come on.
That you had. So it's just boy who cried wolf. And I will say, I am Jewish. I don't think it matters that I'm Jewish and you're not. I think we can all have an opinion on this. But I think that the constant comparisons to Hitler and the constant invoking of the Nazis is just stupid. And I'll put the blame initially. I really think it's the neoconservatives who first really put this into the popular lexicon, where every single enemy that they wanted a regime change against was always the next Hitler. Saddam Hussein's the next Hitler. Bashar al-Assad, Muammar Gaddafi, whoever it is, they're the next Hitler. And it's always just so ridiculous. And I've heard from a lot of the hardcore Israel supporters that Hamas are Nazis. The comparisons are ridiculous. And we don't need to pretend that this, I'm sorry, I'm not hearing you if you're trying to interrupt me, but let me just finish my point. I think that the Nazis were a unique evil, and to call everybody Nazis it does just make the term lose value. Now, I would say that to downplay the amount of censorship that we saw under the Biden regime, and even before Joe Biden came in, I think is just not fair. I mean, listen, as somebody who was adamantly opposed to lockdowns and vaccine mandates during COVID, the censorship was very widespread, and many people had their lives and livelihoods ruined simply for speaking up about government policies that, by the way, they turned out to be right about. And all the people saying follow the science turned out to be wrong about quite a bit of the science. I would also say that it's interesting to me that Democrats always seem to get concerned with the concentration of power as soon as they're out of power. And it's kind of wild to see that the party of George Soros and banker bailouts and all types of just corrupt, concentrated power. Now,
come on. The banker bailouts wasn't exclusively the Democrats.
An issue with this. I think there's always a concern. This is the way the American political system is set up. And yes, there is a concern with powerful private interests wielding government influence. But I also would not equate the government getting in the business of censoring the American people with someone like Elon Musk, who at least his promise with Twitter has been that it's going to be a free speech platform. And I think he's moved more in that direction. And so they're not the same thing at all. Like, I don't have the same problem with a tech executive being in the White House who's going to protect free speech than I do with the government instructing tech executives to censor speech.
Okay, Tim, you were trying to speak there. I'm not quite sure what happened because we couldn't hear you. So let's bring you in to respond just quickly before I go to Ali.
Yeah, very quick. Just two quick things. One, Bashar al-Assad and Hamas are Hitler-esque, I would say, certainly more than Elon Musk. I was just trying to object to Dave's point that it was like the neoconservatives comparing Bashar al-Assad and Hamas to Hitler. I mean, there were some comparisons there, so I was just going to say that. But look, just to the last point,
we'd all be speaking Arabic.
This is how the American system works.
Arabic if we hadn't overthrown Bashar al-Assad.
Okay, well, we weren't all speaking German either. But the thing about Musk, this idea that this is how the American system works. That is wild. Please show me an example of this. The largest donor is the largest government contractor is now in the West Wing. That is insane. That is not how the American system works. And I guess if you go back to the Gilded Age of Rockefellers, but the idea that one of the richest men in the world who also gets money from the government is now going to be deciding how the government spends money, that is not how the American system works. It is obviously they've only been in 2 days, so we'll see. But the potential for corruption and influence there is unprecedented in post-war American history. And then on top of that, to say that he has a platform, and maybe you're saying it's free speech because he's not banning people, though I think he was taking away some people's blue checks. But his platform has an algorithm where he promotes certain things. So if you're on the For You page, you get promoted pro-Musk, pro-Trump stuff. So somebody having that kind of concentrated power in the government, please show me an example of anything even remotely close to this in the modern times.
No, I'm going to give Tim Miller the last word there because these guys can't. They're going to throw out some what about examples, and I'm going to get furious and start screaming. And so, if you want to check this out, it's on Piers Morgan Uncensored. The source material is an hour and 12 minutes long. It's called, quote, Mass Psychosis, unquote, Woke Bishop, Elon Musk Salute, and Jan 6 Pardons. And so, by all means, I'm not censoring Piers Morgan. That's the source material. Go check it out. But this is to me, it's pretty bald-faced. And the George Soros example, I think, is excellent because you could apply it a lot with if Obama had done this, right? You guys would be losing your minds. But because it's somebody you think aligns with your whatever, you're like, no, it'll be fine in this case because he said he would whatever. Come on. It's a billionaire with an office in the White House who was not elected, was the largest donor. Tim Miller made these points, right? It's insane. It's insane. Let me know what you think in the comments.